So it all began back in 2014. I was part of a 4-man missions team, and it was my first trip to the African continent, Kenya. What happened is one of the days we found ourselves walking through one of the slums, the Kibera slum, and it's one of the largest slums in the world. And I think it's hard for us in the West to fully wrap our heads around what that means when a third world country identifies an area as a slum. I'll be honest, I don't know that I was ready for what I experienced, but the sights and the sounds and the smells, it was all just overwhelming. And as the fourth man on this trip, my responsibility was simply to provide music everywhere we went. So as soon as we were dropped off, I pulled my guitar out of the case and I strapped it on, and we just started to walk through the slums. And as we did, I just strummed my guitar and sang out, just sang praise and worship songs as we went. And at one point, we turned this corner and we could see a group of toddlers, small children. I mean, we're talking maybe 3-year-olds through 5-year-olds, maybe 6-year-olds. And they were kind of huddled together in this little alcove. So we made our way toward them, and a woman came out of the building where the kids were congregated. So as soon as we walked up and the kids saw the guitar, they all started shouting, "Guitar, guitar, guitar," like over and over. And their faces just lit up, and they had these huge smiles on their faces. And they were just so excited to see this instrument. It was really cool, and at the same time, it was heartbreaking because these kids were clearly living in squalor and poverty. They were dirty. They were filthy. They didn't have shoes on their feet, and they had like these sores on the tops of their heads. And since they were small toddlers, and we were, full-grown adults, when we were right in the midst of them, we would look down and we could see the tops of their tiny heads. And we could see these patches of white mixed around in their black hair, and we could see that it looked like a dried out wound. But their faces were smiling and joyful and excited because of this guitar. They clearly knew what it was. And so of course I had to take advantage of that moment, and I started to just sing songs. And these kids were like jumping around and dancing and just excited to hear these songs. It was just so cool. And you've got to understand the fullness of this moment in this picture. The sun is beating down. I mean, it is hot. It's sweltering hot. So as I continue to sing, I was singing up-tempo stuff because, it's kids, and like I said, they were dancing and jumping up and down, so I was kind of focused on that. But all of a sudden, in a moment, I just slowed things down. Looking back now, I just feel like it was the Holy Spirit leading me, because considering my audience, it didn't really make sense to slow things down. I might have been kind of losing the momentum. And just organically in the moment, I started to strum through a chord progression that was a song from Carrie Job. It was You Are For Me. And I will never forget this moment for as long as I live. But I started to play through the chord progression, and then I started to sing the first verse, and then I got to the chorus, and the chorus simply says, I know that you are for me. I know that you are for me. And I started to sing through the chorus, and then it was like it was almost like I had my foot locked in a bear trap, like I couldn't go anywhere else. So I just start singing those words over and over, just like a broken record, I know that you are for me. I know that you are for me. I know that you are for me. And I'm singing it over and over. And I'm looking down at these kids and the sights and the smells and the squalor and the filth and the despair, at least what I consider to be despair. And their tiny faces looking up at me, smiling. And I sang this line so many times that eventually those kids grabbed on to what I was saying, and then little by little their tiny voices were, I know that you are for me. I know that you are for me. And at one point, their voices grew in volume so much that they were drowning my voice out. And all you could hear was this chorus of tiny voices. I know that you are for me. I know that you are for me. And they're all standing around me, and I'm towering over them, looking down at their tiny heads with these white patches on them and these sores and the sweltering sun beating down, and they're singing at the top of their lungs, I know that you are for me. I know that you are for me. And somewhere in that moment, I lost it. I could feel the tears like coming up, almost as if they were building up from my belly and just working their way all the way up. And I knew that my eyes were just going to start flooding tears any moment. And I was trying with everything in me to hold it back. I didn't want to ruin this moment, but I was losing it. And in my mind, I was thinking, how on earth do you know that he is for you? How is it even possible for you to utter those words? And their voices loud and high. I know that you are for me. I know that you are for me. And I'm strumming through it louder and louder and louder through these 3 chords. And God used us to minister to a lot of young people on that trip, and the music played a vital role in what he was doing in us and through us. Not only were we being used to minister to others, but we were being ministered to. And everywhere we went, the kids got excited about seeing that guitar. Even before one chord was strummed, just putting their eyes on it brought a smile to their face, an authentic, real burst of joy. They see it and they smile. And then once the music plays, oh man, forget about it. It's just, it's on from that point forward. And we experienced this over and over on this trip. And finally, on our last day of ministry, we ended up at this school in Kenya. And the way we ended up at this school is so weird. I actually got a message on my social media from a friend here in the States, and he saw that we were in Africa. So he sent me a message and said, "You've got to connect with my friends out there. They're doing some amazing things in Kenya. I'd like to connect you." So he did. And his friends reached out to me, and we basically, since we didn't have a schedule to keep and we didn't have an itinerary, it was easy to say, yes, we'll absolutely come out there. It was real spontaneous, the whole trip. So we scheduled to go to where they were, the World Hope Academy. So we showed up, and we got a warm welcome from them. And at one point, they brought all the kids out, like literally every child from the academy. They brought them all out, set up a bunch of chairs, and all the kids sat in the center of the courtyard. And then they gave me an opportunity to minister to them. So I was able to sing with them, and again, just hearing these tiny voices, these young voices singing loud and high, was just amazing. And as it was all kind of culminating, again, seeing kids smile when they see an instrument before they even hear one song, and then they hear the songs, and they just enter into a place. They don't even know the songs, and I don't even know if they all understood what I was saying, but they just enter into that place. They're hypersensitive to the presence of God and what it feels like to be in Daddy's presence. And so anyway, as that day was unfolding at the World Hope Academy, I just clearly had a thought enter my heart, not my head, but my heart, and that was, leave your guitar here. So I immediately shared my thoughts with the two guys from here in the States, and the staff, the administrative staff there. Told them what I was thinking, and I said, "Do you guys have a music program here?" And they said no. And I said, "Do you guys have any music instruments here?" And they said no. And I said, "Okay." I said, "If there was an instrument here, two things. One, would you be willing to give the kids access to it? And two, is there a way where we could find maybe a local musician or someone to come and spend some time teaching the kids?" And the administrators' faces just lit up, and they smiled, and they said, "Yes, the kids would love that." And I said, "Well, I'm going to leave this guitar here after we're done today. And let's just hope that maybe some locals can come in and spend some time with these kids." And they were so excited, so grateful. I mean, their gratitude was like through the roof. As soon as I come home, I walk through the door from the airport, and one of the first things I say to my wife is, "I left my guitar in Kenya." And her immediate response was, "I thought you might." And I was looking at her like, "What? Like, really?" And I had been talking to her on and off during the trip and telling her all about what God was doing. So apparently, as I was sharing with her the different testimonies about ministering to the kids at different stops along the way, she felt the Lord telling her as well that that guitar was going to stay in Kenya. It was not going to come home. So that felt good, coming home and having her say that, instead of having her say, "What? You did what? You left the Taylor acoustic where?" But no, she was just as much at peace as I was. And that very same day, we sat down and had a conversation. And I told her there has got to be a way to bottle that experience that those kids had with that guitar, with music. There's got to be a way to bottle this and manufacture it and distribute it to kids all over the world. There's just got to be a way. And we started talking that very first day. And that's when the vision for Love Song Global was birthed. We wanted to replicate the moments that I had with those kids on that missions trip. We wanted to bring the joy and the hope and the healing that comes from music, and we wanted to make it accessible to these kids.